Commander Vexara had ruled Thaloria Station for 12 cycles. She was a Carvathi, an insectoid creature who stood 7 feet tall with a hard shell that gleamed under the station lights. Her mandibles clicked whenever she spoke, and her 4 eyes watched everything with cold judgment. She hated the newer species that walked through her station, especially the humans. The humans had joined the Galactic Council only 3 years ago. They came from a planet called Earth, a world so dangerous that other species could barely survive there. The gravity was crushing. The weather created storms that covered entire continents. The animals hunted and killed for fun. The other species called humans Deathworlders and whispered about them in dark corners. But the humans seemed soft. They smiled at everyone. They said sorry when someone bumped into them. They laughed easily and made friends quickly. Vexara had watched them for 3 years and decided they were weak. They were nothing to fear. They were barely worth noticing. She was very wrong. On a normal day in the station's market district, a little girl named Lily Carter walked with her mother. Lily was 6 years old with brown hair tied in 2 braids. Her eyes were wide with wonder as she looked at all the strange alien shops around her. Her mother, Catherine Carter, held her hand tightly and smiled at her daughter's excitement. Lily's father was Daniel Carter. He worked as a diplomat on a human ship called the Horizon's Edge, which was docked at the station for trade talks. Daniel loved his family more than anything in the galaxy. He had served in the military for 15 years before becoming a diplomat. His brother Kevin commanded a carrier group in the human fleet. The Carter family was well known and well connected. Though none of this mattered to little Lily, she just wanted to see the pretty things in the market. A Solari merchant had set up a display of glowing crystals near the walkway. The crystals shimmered with colors that Lily had never seen before. They were beautiful like captured rainbows. Lily pulled her hand free from her mother and ran toward them. She did not see Commander Vexara walking in the same direction. Lily crashed into the commander's leg. The crystals she had been reaching for scattered across the floor with a musical, tinkling sound. Lily fell backward and landed hard on her bottom. Vexara looked down at the small human child. Disgust filled her 4 eyes. Her mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of anger among her people. "Disgusting creature," she hissed. Her translator turned her words into cold English. "You dare touch me?" Catherine was already running toward her daughter. Other humans in the market stopped what they were doing. They turned to watch. Before Catherine could reach Lily, before anyone could stop what was about to happen, Vexara raised her clawed hand and brought it down hard across Lily's face. The blow was brutal. Lily flew sideways and hit the ground. 3 deep cuts opened on her cheek where the commander's claws had torn her skin. Blood began to flow immediately, bright red against the white floor. Lily screamed. It was not a scream of fear. It was a scream of pain, the kind of scream that cuts through a parent's heart like a knife. The market went silent. Every human in the area stopped moving at the same moment. Something changed in their faces. Their smiles disappeared. Their friendly expressions vanished. Something old and dangerous rose up behind their eyes. The other species who saw this would later describe it as watching masks fall away, revealing something terrifying underneath. Catherine reached her daughter and fell to her knees beside her. Blood was pooling under Lily's head. The little girl was crying and shaking, her small hands pressed against her wounded face. Catherine looked up at Vexara, and her voice was calm. It was too calm. It was the calm before a terrible storm. "You have made a mistake." Vexara laughed. The sound was like insects clicking. "Threaten me, Deathworlder? You forget where you are. This station belongs to the Dominion. Your child should learn respect. She is 6 years old. Then she will learn young." Vexara turned her back on them. She was already dismissing the incident from her mind. Be grateful I showed restraint." Catherine did not respond. She lifted Lily into her arms, holding her close. Blood dripped onto the polished floor, leaving a trail as she walked away. Other humans appeared from nowhere, surrounding Catherine and Lily like a protective wall. They moved together without speaking, as if they could read each other's minds. Vexara felt something strange as she watched them go. It was a small feeling, easy to ignore, unease, but she pushed it away. What could the humans do? File a complaint? Demand a meeting with the council? The Kovathi had power in the council. The humans were newcomers, barely accepted. Easily ignored Dot, she returned to her duties and forgot about the incident within the hour. On a medical ship docked nearby, doctors worked on Lily's face. The cuts were deep but clean. They would heal, though there would be scars. Daniel Carter sat beside his daughter's bed, holding her small hand in his large one. His face showed no expression. His eyes showed nothing at all. He was completely still, like a predator waiting to strike. Catherine stood beside him. She had washed the blood from her hands and changed her clothes, but she could not wash away what she had seen. Her daughter's blood on alien floors. Her daughter's screams echoing through a foreign market. A monster walking away without consequences. What do we do? She asked quietly. Daniel did not answer for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was flat and cold. We tell everyone. Within 1 hour, a message was sent to every human ship in the sector. It contained video footage from the market's security cameras. It showed a 6-year-old girl being struck by a Korvathi officer. It showed the blood. It showed the officer laughing and walking away. The message had no words. It did not need any. Within 3 hours, the message had spread to every human colony, every human ship, every human community in the galaxy. Billions of people watched a little girl get hurt. Billions of people saw an alien laugh about it. Within 6 hours, everything changed. The humans were not weak. They were not soft. They had simply been choosing to be kind. Commander Vexara had no idea what she had started. She had struck a child and walked away laughing, thinking there would be no consequences. She did not understand humans. She did not know that they were predators who had learned to wear friendly masks. She did not know that the quickest way to make a human show their true nature was to hurt their children. She would learn. They would all learn. The Deathworlders were about to remind the galaxy why they had earned that name. The human investigators worked for 2 weeks on Taloria Station. They moved through the corridors like shadows, asking questions, recording answers, gathering evidence. They spoke politely to everyone. They caused no trouble. They followed every rule and respected every law. But something about them made the other species nervous. It was the way they looked at things. It was the patience in their movements. It was the feeling that they were not simply investigating. They were preparing. During those 2 weeks, the Kovathi economy began to collapse. Human trade made up only a small part of galactic commerce, but it was a critical part. Humans transported goods that other species needed. They moved food, medicine, technology, and raw materials. When the human ships stopped working, everything stopped flowing. The Kovathi tried to replace human shipping with their own vessels. They did not have enough ships. They tried to hire other species to fill the gap. No one wanted to anger the humans. The other species watched from a safe distance and did nothing. Commander Vexara stood before the Galactic Council and demanded action. "This is economic warfare," she declared. Her voice echoed through the great chamber. "The humans are attacking our people. They are starving our worlds. They must be punished." The human ambassador, a woman named Helen Marsh, stood to respond. She had been silent for weeks. Now she spoke with a voice as calm as still water. "This is a labor dispute. Our people do not feel safe working in Korvathi space. They are exercising their right to refuse work in dangerous conditions. Dangerous? Because of one disciplinary action against a misbehaving child? Because a Korvathi officer assaulted a child and your government has taken no action? Because you have not apologized? Because you have not punished the officer responsible? Because you have shown that you do not care about the safety of human families? Helen paused and looked around the chamber. Until we are confident that our people are safe, our workers will remain on leave. The council pressed for compromise. The humans listened politely and agreed to nothing. They simply waited. On Thaloria Station, Paul Jennings finished his investigation. He had reviewed every piece of footage. He had spoken to every witness. He had documented everything with perfect precision. Now he requested a final meeting with Commander Vexara. She agreed, though she hated every moment of it. She hated the way the humans looked at her. She hated their calm voices and their patient questions. She hated the feeling that they were not afraid of her. They met in a small conference room. Paul sat across from her with a folder of documents in his hands. His face showed nothing. "You have your verification," Vexara said. "What happens now? Will you make demands? Will you give speeches about justice and fairness?" Paul did not answer immediately. He looked at her with those empty eyes. "Do you have children, Commander?" The question surprised her. "That is not relevant to this matter. Please answer the question." Something in his voice made her mandibles click nervously. "I have 3 clutchmates who survived to adulthood. Imagine someone hurt one of them. Imagine they were bleeding and screaming. Imagine the person who hurt them laughed and walked away." Paul leaned forward slightly. "What would you do?" Vexara understood the question. She was a warrior from a warrior species. The answer was obvious. "I would destroy them." "Yes, you would." Paul stood and gathered his documents. "We have completed our verification. The evidence is clear. You struck a human child without reason. You showed no remorse. You laughed as you walked away." He moved toward the door. "This information has been sent to our people. And what will your people do?" Paul stopped at the door. He turned back to look at her. "They will decide." He left without another word. The next morning, the human ships began to move again. But they were not leaving. They were coming closer. And this time, they were not merchant vessels. Warships appeared at the edges of Korvathi space. Massive carriers and sleek destroyers. Ships that had been hidden in distant corners of the galaxy, now moving toward a single purpose. Behind them came other vessels. Converted freighters with weapons attached to their hulls. Private ships carrying angry citizens. Transport vessels filled with soldiers thought it was not a military fleet. It was something worse. It was a species moving together, united by a single cause. The Galactic Council called an emergency session. They demanded that the humans stand down. They threatened war. They promised consequences. The humans did not respond. On the bridge of the carrier Thunder of Arkansas, Daniel Carter stood beside his brother Kevin. Daniel was no longer a diplomat. He had resigned that morning. He wore civilian clothes and carried no weapon. He did not need a weapon. "You don't have to do this," Kevin said quietly. "Yes, I do." Kevin nodded. He understood. Every human in the fleet understood. They had all seen the footage. They had all watched a little girl get hurt. They had all felt the same anger, the same need for justice. Humans were social creatures. They formed bonds that went beyond blood. When you hurt one human, you hurt all of them. When you hurt a human child, you awakened something ancient and terrible. The fleet moved toward Thaloria Station. Catherine Carter stood in the command center of a medical ship, watching the fleet's progress on a display screen. Lily was sleeping nearby, finally free of nightmares for one night. The doctor said she was healing well. The scars on her face would fade to thin white lines, but Catherine knew that some wounds did not heal so easily. Her daughter would always remember the monster with 4 eyes. She would always remember the pain and the blood and the fear. Catherine had once believed in diplomacy. She had believed that the galaxy could be a place of peace and cooperation. She had believed that reasonable beings could solve their problems with words. She did not believe that anymore. Some lessons could only be taught with blood. The fleet was almost at Taloria Station. Commander Vexara watched them approach on her screens. For the first time, she felt real fear. She had struck a child and walked away laughing that now the child's family was coming for her, and there was nowhere in the galaxy she could hide. Within 6 hours of the incident, every human on Taloria Station had left. This happened without any announcement. There were no complaints filed. There were no angry speeches or demands for meetings. One moment the human section of the station was full of life. Shops were open. Families walked through corridors. Children played in recreation areas. The next moment, everything was empty. Doors were locked. Lights were off. The humans had vanished like ghosts. The station's administrator was a Pelian named Overseer Thomac. He had 3 eyes and gray skin that changed color based on his emotions. Right now, his skin was dark blue, the color of deep worry. He sat in his office and stared at the empty human quarter on his monitors. Something was very wrong. Humans did not behave this way. In his experience, humans loved to talk. They argued about everything. They filed complaints through proper channels. They demanded meetings and wrote long letters. They did not simply disappear without a word. He called Commander Vexara to his office. "What did you do?" he asked. Vexara stood before his desk with her arms crossed. Her mandibles clicked with annoyance. She did not like being questioned by a Pelian. "I disciplined a misbehaving child." "The humans are overreacting as usual." "A child?" Thomac's skin turned even darker. "You struck a human child?" "It was barely injured. A few scratches. Nothing serious." Thomac pulled up files on his display screen. His 3 eyes moved independently, reading multiple documents at once. "Commander, do you know anything about human behavior? About their social bonds? They have no organized structure. They are individuals who happen to share a species." "No, you misunderstand them completely." The overseer's voice was tight with fear. "Humans are pack animals. They form bonds that go beyond family. When you threaten one human, you threaten every human connected to them. And humans are connected to each other in ways we are only beginning to understand. This is nonsense. One family will file a complaint and the matter will be settled. The father is Daniel Carter." Vexara made a dismissive gesture. "A diplomat on a trade ship. He has no power." Daniel Carter served in the human military for 15 years. His brother commands a carrier group. His wife's family owns a shipping company that moves 30% of all cargo in this sector. Tomac leaned forward. "And as of this morning, Lily Carter is the most talked about child in human space. Every human who can access a communication network has seen what you did to her." Vexara felt the first real hint of concern, but she pushed it away. "They will file a formal complaint. We will offer compensation. The matter will end." It did not end. The first reports came within hours. Human ships were moving throughout the sector. They were not military vessels, not at first. They were merchant ships, private transports, corporate freighters. Thousands of them. They were gathering at the edges of Karvathi space, forming a loose ring around the Dominion's territory. They were not attacking. They were not threatening. They were simply there, watching, waiting. Then the communication stopped. Every human diplomat in the galaxy went silent. They stopped attending meetings. They stopped answering calls. When the Galactic Council demanded explanations, they received only one message. It came from the Horizon's Edge, Daniel Carter's ship. "We are discussing how to respond to the assault on a human child by a Korvathi officer. During this discussion, we request no interference. We will contact you when we have reached a decision." The council was not used to being told to wait. They sent more messages. They demanded immediate talks. They threatened consequences. The humans did not respond. Days passed. The human ships remained at the edges of Korvathi space. More arrived every day. Trade began to suffer. The Korvathi had not realized how much they depended on human shipping until the ships stopped moving their goods. Factories ran out of materials. Stores ran out of products. Prices began to rise. On Thaloria Station, Overseer Thalmak watched the situation grow worse with each passing hour. He called another meeting with Vexara. "You must apologize," he said. "Publicly, immediately. I will do no such thing. A Korvathi commander does not apologize to lesser species." Lesser species? The humans have crippled our economy in less than a week. They have done this without firing a single weapon. They have simply stopped participating in galactic trade. Thalmak's skin was now black with fear. What happens when they decide to do more than wait? They would not dare attack us. The council would condemn them. Would the council help us? Look around you, Commander. The other species are watching this situation very carefully. They are not offering to help the Korvathi. They are staying silent and waiting to see what happens. On the 5th day, a human shuttle requested permission to dock at Thaloria Station. It carried 6 humans in civilian clothes. Their faces showed no emotion. They walked through the station's corridors in perfect silence, their movements coordinated like soldiers on a mission. They requested a meeting with Commander Vexara. "Have they come to negotiate?" she asked. The lead human was a man named Paul Jennings. His file said he worked for a human corporation. Nothing in his eyes suggested corporate work. They were cold and empty, like windows into a dark room. "We are here to verify," he said. "We need to confirm the details of the incident before we proceed." "Proceed with what?" Paul Jennings smiled. It was not a friendly smile. It was the smile of someone who already knew how this story would end. That depends entirely on what we find. The humans began their investigation. They reviewed security footage frame by frame. They interviewed witnesses with endless patience. They documented everything with careful precision. And while they worked, the human ships continued to gather. Hundreds became thousands. Thousands became tens of thousands. The ring around Korvathi space grew tighter. The galaxy held its breath. On a medical ship far from Thaloria Station, Lily Carter was healing. The cuts on her face were closing. The doctor said she would have scars, thin white lines that would fade with time. But the nightmares were harder to treat. She woke up screaming every night, reaching for her mother, crying about the monster with 4 eyes. Daniel Carter sat beside her bed through every nightmare. He held her hand. He told her she was safe. He promised that no one would ever hurt her again. And somewhere deep inside him, in a place he never showed to his daughter, he was making other plans. The friendly diplomat was gone. The smiling father was gone. Something older had taken their place. Something that humans had learned to hide long ago, back when they were still hunting across the plains of their deadly world. The predator was awake, and it was very, very patient. The Korvathi military had studied human warfare for years. They had watched recordings of human battles. They had analyzed human weapons and tactics. They had concluded that humans were dangerous fighters, but nothing that could not be handled with superior numbers and technology. They had not studied what happened when humans stopped being careful. They had not understood what Deathworlders truly meant. The fleet that surrounded Deloria Station was unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. At its center were military vessels, proper warships with trained crews and heavy weapons. The carrier Thunder of Arkansas led the formation, its hull gray and scarred from a dozen campaigns. But the military ships were only part of the fleet. Behind them came hundreds of other vessels. Merchant ships with weapons welded to their hulls. Mining vessels converted into ramming craft. Private yachts carrying wealthy humans who had never fired a weapon but wanted to be part of this moment. Transport ships filled with volunteers who had traveled across the galaxy to join the cause. It was not an army. It was a species united by anger. Deloria Station's defenses were powerful. They had been designed to stop pirate raids and discourage enemy attacks. Weapons platforms surrounded the station. Shield generators hummed with energy. Thousands of Kavati soldiers stood ready to defend their commander. None of it mattered. The attack began without warning. Human Marines breached the station's hull at 17 different points at exactly the same moment. They used cutting tools and shaped charges, opening holes in the metal skin of the station and pouring through like water. Through cracks in a dam. The Marines moved with terrifying coordination. They did not speak to each other. They did not need to. They had trained together, fought together, bled together. They knew what their companions would do before they did it. They flowed through the station's corridors, like a single creature with 100 bodies. The Kovathi defenders tried to stop them. They formed defensive lines. They set up barricades. They fired their weapons at the invaders. The humans did not slow down. They moved through the defenders, like wind through leaves. They did not kill unless they had to. They used precise strikes to disable, not destroy. A shot to the leg. A blow to the head. A weapon knocked away and a body pushed aside. The Kovathi fell, alive but helpless. As the humans moved past them, this was almost more frightening than killing would have been. The humans were not fighting a war. They were delivering a message. And the message was clear. We could destroy you all, but we choose not to. We choose to show you what mercy looks like. Remember this mercy. Remember that we gave it freely. And remember that we can take it away. Commander. Vexara watched the attack from her command center. Her 4 eyes moved rapidly across multiple screens, tracking the human advance. Everywhere she looked, she saw her soldiers falling, her defenses crumbling, her station being taken apart with surgical precision. She had barricaded herself in the command center with her most loyal guards. 20 Kovathi warriors, the best fighters on the station, stood between her and the door. They were armed with the most powerful weapons available. They were ready to die for their commander. Vexara opened the communication channel and broadcast to the entire station. This is Commander Vexara. I demand to speak with whoever leads this attack. We can negotiate. We can find a peaceful solution. There is no need for more violence. No one responded. She tried again. She offered money. She offered territory. She offered to resign her position and leave Korvathi space forever. She promised anything and everything. Silence was her only answer. The sounds of fighting grew closer. She could hear weapons fire in the corridors outside. She could hear the screams of her soldiers. And beneath it all, she could hear footsteps. Steady, patient footsteps. Getting closer with each passing moment. The door to the command center exploded inward. Her guards opened fire immediately. Energy beams and projectiles filled the air. Smoke and debris clouded the room. When the smoke cleared, her guards were down. All 20 of them. They lay on the floor, groaning and clutching wounds that were painful but not fatal. Standing over them were human Marines in dark armor, their weapons still raised. But they were not the ones Vexara was looking at. A man walked through the door. He wore civilian clothes, not armor. His face was calm, but his eyes were completely empty. There was no anger in them. No hatred. No emotion at all. They were the eyes of someone who had already decided what he was going to do and felt nothing about it. Daniel Carter stopped in front of her. "Commander Vexara," he said. His voice was quiet. "You hurt my daughter. This is murder." Vexara tried to keep her voice steady. She failed. "This is an act of war. The Galactic Council will. The Council cannot help you. I am a commanding officer of the Korvathi Dominion. I have rights under galactic law. You cannot simply. You struck my daughter." Daniel stepped closer. He was within arm's reach now. She was 6 years old. She was looking at crystals in a market. She bumped into your leg by accident, and you hit her so hard that you cut her face open. She should have watched where she was going. She is 6 years old. Children must learn respect for their superiors. Daniel was silent for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice had not changed at all. It was still quiet, still calm, still completely empty. She wakes up screaming every night. She sees your face in her nightmares. She asks me why the monster hurt her. She asked me what she did wrong. He reached into his jacket. She did nothing wrong. You did something wrong, and now you will pay for it. Wait, we can discuss this. I can apologize. I can pay compensation. I can end. The time for talking ended when my daughter's blood hit the floor. What happened next was not broadcast. The security recordings in the command center mysteriously stopped working at that exact moment. The Marines who were present refused to speak about it. Daniel Carter never discussed it with anyone. But 17 hours later, a human shuttle approached the Galactic Council's central station. It requested no permission to dock. It simply landed at the main entrance and left a single container on the steps. Inside the container, preserved in stasis, was the head of Commander Vexara. A note was attached to the container. It was written in Standard Galactic, the common language of the Council. The words were simple. "We do not negotiate when our children bleed. We do not forgive when our children scream. We do not forget when our children bear scars. Let this serve as a reminder. Humanity protects its own. Cross this line again at your peril." The note was not signed by any individual dot. It was signed by a species. The Galactic Council chamber was full of noise. Representatives from 100 species shouted at each other. Some demanded war against humanity. Others called for calm. Fear and anger filled the air like smoke dot at the center of the chaos. Vexara's head sat in its container on the speaking platform. No one had moved it. No one wanted to touch it. The Korvathi High Representative, a tall insectoid named Commander Thesol, slammed his fist against his desk. "This is murder. This is terrorism. The humans have killed a council officer and delivered her remains like a trophy. We demand immediate military action against the human species." Other representatives nodded in agreement. The humans had crossed a line. They had shown that they were savages, monsters who solved their problems with violence. They needed to be stopped, but not everyone agreed. Ambassador Felik of the Solari Confederation rose to speak. He was a small creature with silver skin and large eyes. His people were merchants who valued peace and profit above all things. "Before we rush to war, perhaps we should remember how this situation began." His voice was calm but carried clearly through the chamber. Commander Vexara assaulted a child. A 6-year-old girl who committed no crime except bumping into her leg. The commander struck this child so hard that she was scarred for life. And when given weeks to apologize and make things right, the Korvathi refused. That does not justify murder. No, it does not. Selleck looked around the chamber. But it explains what happened. The humans gave the Korvathi every opportunity to handle this matter peacefully. The Korvathi chose arrogance. They chose to protect an officer who hurt a child. And now they are paying the price. The debate continued for hours. Some species wanted to punish the humans. Others wanted to stay neutral. Still others quietly admitted that they understood why the humans had done what they did. Every species in the galaxy protected its children. Every species would fight for its young. The humans had simply shown that they were better at fighting than anyone had expected. While the council argued, the human delegation arrived at the chamber. They walked through the doors without waiting for permission. At their head was Catherine Carter, mother of the girl who had been hurt. She wore simple clothes and carried no weapons. She needed none. The chamber fell silent as she walked to the speaking platform. The Galactic Council recognizes the human delegation, the presiding officer said. His voice shook slightly. Catherine nodded. Thank you. We are here to deliver a message and to establish new terms for humanity's participation in galactic society. You are in no position to make demands. Commander Dexal's voice was full of anger. You have committed murder. You have violated galactic law. You should be begging for mercy. Catherine looked at him with calm eyes. Your economy is in ruins. Your military proved unable to protect a single station. Your officer hurt a child, and you refused to punish her. We are in every position to make demands. She placed a data tablet on the speaking platform. These are our terms. First, any individual who assaults a human child will be subject to human justice. We do not care about species or rank or jurisdiction. If you hurt our children, we will find you. Second, human families will be granted protected status on all council stations and worlds. We expect local authorities to ensure the safety of our people. Third, any species that fails to enforce these protections will face economic consequences. Our shipping network will not serve those who cannot protect our families. You cannot dictate terms to the council. We are not dictating. We are informing. Catherine's eyes swept across the chamber. You invited humanity to join galactic civilization. You welcomed us as partners. You thought we were soft because we smiled and made friends and said sorry when we bumped into people. You forgot what we really are. She paused, letting her words settle over the assembly. We are Deathworlders. We come from a planet where everything tries to kill us. Our weather destroys cities. Our animals hunt for sport. Our history is written in blood. We learned long ago that kindness is a choice, not a weakness. We choose to be kind because we know what happens when we choose otherwise. Her voice hardened. We want peace. Our children want to play with your children. They want to learn from your teachers. They want to grow up in a galaxy that is safe and full of wonders. We want that future more than you can understand. But if you threaten what we love, you will discover exactly what kind of predators we are. She picked up Vexara's container. The commander learned this lesson. We hope you are wiser than she was. Catherine turned and walked out of the chamber. Her delegation followed in perfect silence. The council debated for 3 more days. They argued about law and justice and the proper response to human actions. They threatened and postured and made speeches. In the end, they accepted every human term, not because they thought it was right, not because they believed in justice. They accepted because they were afraid, and that fear changed everything. In the years that followed, humanity spread across the galaxy. Human families lived on alien worlds. Human children played with alien children. Human ships carried goods to every corner of known space. The humans smiled and made friends. They were polite and helpful. They apologized when they bumped into people. Other species sometimes forgot what the humans really were, but they never forgot completely. There was always a small voice in the back of their minds, warning them to be careful, warning them not to cross certain lines. Lily Carter grew up to become an ambassador. The scars on her face faded to thin white lines, barely visible in certain light. When reporters asked about the incident, she said she did not remember much. She remembered being scared. She remembered pain. She remembered her mother holding her and telling her that everything would be okay, that she did not know exactly what her father had done. She did not need to know. She just knew that she was safe. Daniel Carter retired from public life after the incident. He spent his days with his family, watching his daughter grow, teaching her about the galaxy and its wonders. When Lily asked him about the scars on her face, he told her they were marks of survival. They showed that she was strong. He never told her about the blood on his hands. Some stories were not meant for children. Catherine Carter remained active in human politics. She worked to build bridges between species, to create understanding and cooperation. She believed in peace. She worked for peace, but she kept a small picture on her desk. It showed a container on the steps of the council chamber, a reminder of what humans were capable of when peace failed. The galaxy learned to respect humanity, not because humans were the strongest or the smartest or the most advanced. They learned respect because humans protected their own. They learned respect because humans kept their promises, crossed the line, and there would be consequences. Hurt a human child, and the Deathworlders would come. It was a simple lesson. The galaxy never forgot it. And in the end, that was exactly what the humans wanted.